to be a collector myself. You see, like we've had people who collect games and stuff. I'm trying to collect people that have world records in video games. That's what I'm gonna become a collector of that. Interview all these people that have awesome world records, and we have someone here today, Ray Lapsey, that was the winner of the Twin Galaxies Gauntlet and multiple record world holder. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So tell us about winning that gauntlet because um, that is like when you're playing like a multitude of games together. So it's not like just one game. You have to. It's like they say, going through a gauntlet. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I went into it not really expecting to win. Kind of a shock when I made it to the finals. And the way they had it set up, is you start out playing Pitfall, had to collect a treasure, you could move on to the next station. And it was Duck Hunt for the NES. You had to get a certain score. I can't really recall what that was. Then you'd move on to Ridge Racer for the PlayStation 1. And then I believe it was some basketball game on the Wii Sports Resort, I believe. Then you would move on to an Xbox 360 game, which was the new Sonic game at the time. I think it was Generations.
Mm.
And the first person to get through it pretty much won. You just grab the flag, right up to the front. It's over.
So when you got done, when you won that, like, what was that feeling? Like, was it like, hey, this is another day in playing games, or was you really excited about that?
Yeah, I was excited. I expected to go there and, probably finish third or fourth. Coming out as number one was a shock. Didn't really know what to say or do, so I just kind of stood there and just waited for everybody else to finish up. Then it went, into that, right into the award ceremony, so it kind of went by. It was, I don't know, it was like I was standing there, it was just like a blur because I didn't expect to win.
So what games did you get world records in?
Street Fighter 4 on the PS3, and I think it's Super Street Fighter 4 on the PS3 also. Um, I'm not sure if that record still stands. I'm pretty sure it does. Haven't actually checked the Twin Galaxies website for quite some time. I see one of those records was still in the current edition of the Guinness Gamers Edition.
So when you see, like, when you get a world record and stuff, I mean, like, I know you said that you didn't, not sure if someone beat it yet, but is that something where you actually think to yourself, I'm going to keep an eye on it, or for you, it's like, hey, I got it, that's great, and, I'm not really worried about seeing if someone breaks it?
I know there's others out there that can take it. I mean, it's just for score.
Right.
There's a lot of great players out there I've played online, and usually I get my ass handed to me because these guys are very experienced at play online. Um, I just pretty much play for fun. I think it's cool that I got the highest score on that system. Um, as far as playing to get better and better and better, time's kind of restricted for me, being my work schedule and stuff to do at home and whatnot. This
Right.
is about the only time I pick up the controllers on the weekend anymore.
As far as, like, so if people are like a little confused because I know people a lot of times today they're used to like pro gaming. So someone goes out and they're doing pro gaming and fighting and they're trying to beat each other and all that, and then world record holding. So in this case, it's about trying to get a highest particular score as far as your Street Fighter record.
Yeah. Basically just playing the computer, getting all the way through it, seeing how many points you can rack up throughout the game. What
So
kind of... Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, but it still takes a skill to try and get those higher points because you have to get the combos and all that to get the higher score.
Yeah, that can be a challenge in itself. Yeah, you got to time it just right, do things at the right time, try to get the maximum score possible with health that you have left, how you finished a round, um, how many rounds you go through, which is it seems like a key to that game. If you go 3 rounds, you're going to get a higher score potentially, but usually I won't play that way because it kind of just feels like it's kind of a curse. I've tried it, and when you try to go to 3 rounds, something always happens. Usually closer towards the end, then you're just back to square one where you got to start over again.
And like, what other games do you like to play that maybe you're not particularly trying to go for a world record in, but you enjoy?
I like to play a lot of the classics on the NES, especially that's my main system that I like to play around on. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Contra, which I'm not the best at, but it's fun, especially since they have the 30 life code. Um, a little bit of Metroid, all the Mario games, of course. I got a lot of older systems too, Atari 2600, and television, all that stuff. I just like to play around, play a little bit of this and that.
Yeah, it's funny because when Tim McVeigh was telling me about you, he didn't say vintage collector. He said first vintage hoarder, then he went to
Yeah.
collector. So what's the difference here? What makes you a vintage hoarder instead of a collector?
All right, now I'm a hoarder because I don't have the space to set everything up, so it's kind of all in boxes sitting in my garage right now. Now, once I get it set up in a nice spot where everything can be displayed, then I'll be a vintage collector.
Ah, okay. Now here's the thing. Like when I was talking to some other people, they talk about having to negotiate, where you're gonna have all your collection set up. So, I mean, is that something where you could do like in the house where you say, hey, this is gonna be my spot to have all my collection set up?
Yeah, right now we're currently moving some things around the house. We got a big garage. We're gonna be moving some things out there, and I'm hoping to get the little upstairs room to hopefully put all my old video games, a couple TVs, and my little collectibles and whatnot.
Do you have something that you collected that's like your favorite?
Yeah, NES. I'm currently have around 280 some NES cartridges,
Wow.
and I got some duplicates too. So I kind of pass them off to friends as they're looking for games here and there, and people that I run into.
So is it more like trying to collect as much as you can, like as far as trying to fill out the collection, or do you look like for rare games? Like, what's your method when you collect?
When I don't collect, I mean, if it's reasonably priced and I don't have it, I'll get it. If I happen to stumble upon something that is kind of rare that I can get a hold of, at a reasonable price, I might consider it. Like I've got a copy of Mighty Final Fight. I picked that up for like
Oh,
9.99 with the box.
nice. Yeah, I love that game where they're playing, they look like kids.
Yeah.
So, do you ever like when you're playing other games? Do you ever say to yourself, "Hey, like I know you say you play for fun, but at what point do you get to saying, "Hey, I want to see if I can go to this record"? Is it just on accident where you're like, "Wow, I'm having a really good game. I wonder if I did any like a high score or something"?
Yeah, it kind of started on accident. I was at the Big Bang, and some of the representatives from Twin Galaxies was there, and they had Super Street Fighter 4 set up, and I just started playing it. And next thing you know, I held the second place record on the 360, and that kind of sparked something there. So I went home and hooked up the old VCR to the PS3 and sent in some tapes and got a couple records there. And I also did send in a record for versus Duck Hunt on the MAME emulator, and I did get a record on that for a short period of time. But of course, you're using a mouse, not a light gun, so it's a little bit different. Um, I thought about competing more, trying to go for more records, um, but it's just hard to fit in a lot of the time for me, to get that good at something. Um, 'Cause usually I'm away from home, usually 11 to 12 hours a day, so that leaves me little time to focus on anything on the side like that, and put a lot of time into it, a lot of time and effort into it.
Well, I think it's really interesting because you always have this narrative that, if you've done well in a game or if you've reached like a certain pinnacle, people always want to say, oh, you have no life, you're not doing anything. I mean, with you, like you said, you work in your business, everything like that, and then you only really get to play on the weekend, but you love these games, and by that, you end up finding that you have, ability to get these high scores, which is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I'm having fun doing it. I mean, high score is just kind of a bonus, if you will. A record's just like, oh, cool, I got this. But the best part is just playing it and having fun doing it.
What do you think overall of like people who will look at someone who's either a pro gamer or who've done well in games and gotten high scores, and they'll say, "Wow, that's cool," and it actually like maybe you don't get like the fame that you would get of like a movie star or somebody. Some people be higher than others, but how do you feel about the idea that gaming in itself can be looked upon and have a fan group associated with it?
I think it's really cool. Last thing I ever thought is, a kid growing up, hey, this could get me in Guinness, or, I was always told, make sure you do your schoolwork, and oh, you better take time out of your day to read a book, and this and that, and video games are just rotting your brain. And so it's really cool to see that gaming has gone to this level where it's being recognized by Guinness. Um, there's actually you can turn in high scores to Twin Galaxies. I believe you can still do that. I haven't checked out their website for a while. There's been a lot of changing in that company over the past few years. So I'm not sure what their current policy is on setting world records or submitting world records. But I mean, I just think it's really cool that, now I look at it today. Okay, yeah, it never got me nowhere. Well, my name's in Guinness, so that's awesome. And I can show it to my mom and see, hey, look, gaming got me something. I might not be a millionaire or got paid for it, but I thought it was, it's really cool.
What'd your mom think when she saw that?
She thought it was cool.
Ah, that's cool. So, what was it like meeting Walter Day? Because I mean, everyone tells me how awesome he is. We hope to interview him soon. What was it like going out there and meeting him?
Oh, Walter's cool. I met him at the Big Bang in Ottumwa, and then later on, one of my friends, Terry, was talking to him, and we actually went to Fairfield and had lunch with him, and went back to his apartment. And he kind of showed us some of the trading cards, gave us some trading cards, some posters and stuff. He's a really nice guy. Um, yeah, you can talk to him for hours. I mean, that's the thing about Walter. If you're gonna, if you go to see him, you got to have the time to talk to him because, he's awesome to talk to and hang around.
Yeah, and it's really cool the community too. Just the people that I've met. It seems like in you have your groups and we're all gamers, but it's kind of cool when you meet a lot of people associated with Twin Galaxies, play these old school games, also modern games. Everyone's submitting things. Like, can you just tell us about the people you've met and like the kind of community that you've had?
Oh yeah, I've met all kinds of people through gaming. I mean, we go to these events. I think one of the first people I met was Pac-Man Pat at the Big Bang. He had his own room with his arcade machine set up, primarily Pac-Man machines because they were celebrating Pac-Man anniversary. Him and Glenn, we've been to his arcade a handful of times. He's come to Oskaloosa, Ottumwa, this area, quite a few times. So it's nice to hang out with them. There's just people here and there that you see. When we go to Midwest Gaming Classic, usually there's a few people there that we usually run into and hang out with, even though I've missed that event the past few years. Um, yeah, it's been great. I mean, a lot of great people out there that go to these gaming events and who like to play these old games, and you know, it's nice to have somebody who's out there who likes the same thing you do. I mean, you go to work every day, and there's hardly any retro gamers around, or anybody who even gives a damn what you're interested in, outside of that place. So,
Yeah, so I mean, does like have you run into people like have you ever told anyone about your either your score or like the games you like and received any negative feedback like oh you play games even though you're basically only doing it for a hobby on the weekend at this point.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple people, that know what I'm talking about, but a lot of people, I don't really say much about it. Um, you know, I just don't feel there's, if I might say, hey, you into playing old video games or whatnot, a lot of people, oh yeah, I remember playing that, and you might get that out of them, but further than that, it's kind of an afterthought to them.
As far as you're collecting, where do you find most of the games that you collect?
Just here and there. When I first started collecting, I think there was a little store in Ottumwa years back when I first started buying NES games again, and I picked up, I don't know, probably like 10 or so. Then I was just kind of looking on eBay here and there and buying small lots, onesie, twosie dollar games, getting a box of them here and there. Um, and I've just whatever I can run into them. I mean, if it's a flea market, which I usually don't have luck when I go to a flea market, you might find something or yard selling or whatnot. There was a big auction we had here in town. Picked up quite a few games there and a lot of extra systems and whatnot. Everything was going for fairly cheap. Um, as of late, though, it's been really hard to find anything. With the prices on eBay and stuff, and this stuff's
Yeah.
going for way more than what it's worth. Um, the stuff's cool. I'm not going to pay $40, $50 for a copy of The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah,
That's a little bit a little bit overboard there, and I don't know. I think people just they think they're sitting on a lot of money, and people's willing to pay a lot of money, so it kind of restricts what a lot of these collectors could buy, I think. So I'm just giving it some time and waiting for it to kind of die down a little bit, and I'm thinking it'll be easier to get a hold of a lot of these classic games that I want to get. I mean, there's still more systems out there I want to get, but I'm just going to give it some time and kind of see what happens.
Yeah, it seems like, retro gaming is one of those things where once you start to learn about the people that do it, a lot of people are collecting these things. So I guess what happens is some of these people go into their attic and they're like, "Hey, look, I have Super Mario Brothers, the first one," and they think it's gonna be worth gold, and it's like, wow, they put it up on eBay, like you said, and they're charging way too much when it really shouldn't cost that much because it was, standard with the NES.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that anymore. Um, Even on Craigslist, if you get on there, first Mario Brothers game, and it's like, well, no, it's not the first Mario Brothers game, but
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt, everybody thinks that's the first Mario game, and then you start getting these people like, oh, I remember playing that, and they see a price tag on the system in the game for like $100. Yeah, I'll get that. Given that it's cheaper than what it cost back when it first come out, it's still quite a bit for what it is. Especially nowadays too, with emulators and adapters for the PC that you can get to play these games on there without having to pay anything. Not saying I'd ever do anything like that. But
I have to ask. So I looked on your Facebook page, and on your profile picture, there's like a picture of you that looks like you're in a car with fur on it. What is that?
that was one of the vans that they used on the Dumb and Dumber movies. I actually had one of them at Comic Con. I don't think it was the one that was actually in the movie, but it was like a backup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Nice, cool. Well, so as far as like overall, like let's say you could do like your gaming related stuff for a living. Like could you see yourself doing like what some of these gamers are doing, like pro gaming and stuff like that? Is that something that you would like to do if you had that opportunity, or for you it's like, nah, that's a little bit too much?
As long as I was financially sound, it'd be great. It would give me something to do on a day to day basis. Um, if I ever win the lottery someday, or some money falls into my lap somehow, yeah, that'd be something I would probably take up. You got to have something to do, Monday through Friday kind of thing, and having fun doing something like that, it would be awesome to be able to sit there and master a game like one of the Street Fighter games, especially Street Fighter 5. I haven't played much of that yet, but a new game just come out. It'd be great to be able to sit there and master, your character's move or several characters' moves, and play with people online and kind of learn how other people play and be able to counteract what they do, and make it up because I know there's big tournaments that go down for Street Fighter. I don't know if they still have them or not, but for a while there they did.
As if you were, let's say you only could play 3 games, like you were stuck in an environment where you could only take 3 games with you, and you knew you were going to be playing those games for months. What 3 games would you take?
I would probably take. I know I'd take Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I love that game. It never gets old how many times you play it. Um, I'd have to say probably one of the Street Fighter games. Probably be like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That seemed to be the one I like the most. Throughout the days I used to play them in an arcade all the time. And then I don't know if it was for a lifetime and I had to play that. It would have to be something that just went on and on and on. Something like an MMORPG. I'm not a big fan of those games because they kind of drain your life. I know I played World of Warcraft for a long time, and it takes a
Ah,
lot out of you. It would have to be something like that because it'd have to be something that's always changing, because you always got to have something new there and new things to do.
in World of Warcraft, what'd you play? Well, I guess Alliance or Horde?
I played a little bit of both. I think I spent most of my time on the Horde though, when I did play,
Ah,
which this was years back. This was, I think, around right before the first expansion come out. I probably played for a year or so.
yeah, it was much better back in the day, but yeah, it really got like when they got to like I guess to say the third expansion. Some say second, but I mean, Burning Crusade original I didn't have a problem with, but after that, it seemed like the game started to go downhill after that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I just once you get to a certain level, you just find yourself out killing things, trying to get experience. And I'm not one of those people that like to team up with a bunch of people online. I kind of like to do things on my own. Or sometimes my wife would be on there, and we go out there and do things together. Um, but yeah, it just seemed after a while, it kind of seemed just like almost like a job.
Yeah.
You'd get on there, you just kill a bunch of stuff. Maybe you'd find a side quest or something to do to keep you busy. Um, but then you get done, and after a while it'd take longer and longer and longer to level up. And you just felt like you wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah, it's true, and then especially like you said, it's time consuming. Even when they tried to make it where it didn't take as long to do things, in the end, it just eats up so much of your time.
Yeah, I think what I ended up doing is I ended up just finding a private server that let you do whatever you want, and I got on there and just got it all out of me. Just went through it all, got all the weapons I wanted to kill, whatever I wanted to kill, because you're pretty much invincible on a lot of them private servers. Um, I just wanted to explore the rest of the world, so I explored everything, and then I kind of called it quits.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and talking with us today. It was really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.